you were Arne Slot, Wilson, what would you do?
I think it's pretty obvious now that the future does not include Salah.
You look back at how Ferguson used to deal with Giggs and Scholes.
When Isak came off, I didn't actually know he was playing, like genuinely. Like I was like, he is there. Like, has anybody scored an easier goal in their career? For Barry and Beto, the lead singers of Everton Funk.
So there was a lot of funk going around today, isn't there? The Villa funk at the start of the season.
Pod.
Serious end-to-end stuff.
He just needs one to go in off his back, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he can't even get one to go in off his back.
That just feels like goading, like that intro there.
There was quite an open question. Which of the Premier League fixtures takes your eye?
Yes, several of them catch my eye, Max.
I got the impression that you were listening to sort of slightly sordid, saucy podcasts. Mike says, why has punditry got so bad? Not a single paid journalist, expert, pundit predicted Liverpool to fall off a cliff, Villa's resurgence, Sunderland's success, Chelsea supposedly having a good season, and Amorim a stinker, yet level on points after tomorrow night. Experts know nothing, do they? Barry, why are you all so terrible?
I mean, I think that's slightly unfair. We're pundits, we're not psychics. And the predictions we made at the start of the season, things change, Max. It's quite difficult to foresee the massive drop-off in form that Liverpool are going to have, to foresee that Virgil van Dijk will not be up to his usual high standards, see also Ibrahima Konate, Mo Salah. You can only speculate as to how new players will fit into systems. Sunderland's new players have all hit the ground running. Other teams' new players, not so much. I think everyone presumed Alexander Isak, for example, will be a very good addition to the Liverpool squad. Thus far, he hasn't been, due to his own shortcomings and due to the fact that Liverpool players seem incredibly reluctant to get the ball to him at speed. But no, the short answer is, I suppose, yeah, we're all rubbish.
Yeah.
But I've no problem with being called rubbish. What I do object to is people calling me or other people rubbish when they have the benefit of 2020 hindsight. So unless you have also made predictions at the start of the season, put them in the public domain, then I don't think you're really in a position to criticise.
Yes, there you go, Mike. Anyway, should we start at Ellen Road? Leeds 3, Chelsea 1. I certainly didn't predict this one, Jacob.
No, but maybe Chelsea fans might have, because after such a good week with beating Barcelona so emphatically and getting the draw with Arsenal with 10 men playing so well in that game, I think they came into it wondering what they might do against a supposed lesser side. It's been a bit of a problem for Chelsea down the years, is that they, especially in the last few years, is that they're capable of raising themselves in the big games, and then in the games that you need to win, they don't turn up, and that's why part of why they haven't won the title since 2017. So this was a really big test that Maresca had kind of talked about post Barcelona. He very quickly brought up the Leeds and the Bournemouth game coming up on Saturday as being massive for them, and they weren't able to pass that. He made the changes, which when it's been done this season, the rotation, it's worked in certain games, at certain other times it's not quite clicked. The Karabag game away in the Champions League last month comes to mind, which they were kind of lucky to draw 2-2. And last night again, he was out. Obviously, was enforced changes in midfield without Caicedo after the suspension against Arsenal, but he left out Neto, he left out Fofana, brought in players who just weren't quite up to it, and it seemed like they almost that inexperience kind of kicked in a little bit as well, where perhaps they weren't able to withstand that early barrage from Leeds, and were they quite appreciative of what a Leeds v Chelsea game was going to be like at Ellen Road. I mean, they might have expected a promoted side to really get into them, but were there the players in that team who quite appreciated the historic significance of what this would actually mean to Leeds, and were there the players to get them through that? So the first 15-20 minutes, were they able to withstand everything that Leeds through at the minute. It just kind of looks like they weren't able to get through that and then start playing their football. Conceding a goal from a set piece. It just looks like they were bullied throughout that period and didn't do any of the basics right, and so they end up losing a game that ultimately they should have won. This is probably why they're very insistent that they aren't title challengers.
And Wilson, I guess, Daniel, Leeds, they're big, aren't they? And as Jacob alludes to, Leeds Chelsea, it has that historic significance. Did Daniel Farke play that match of the day from the 60s when everyone just beat each other up? Because they really, it's such a cliche, but it just felt like Leeds wanted it more, Brian.
So it's the 1970 FA Cup final and replay, isn't it? The two incredibly violent games between Chelsea and Leeds. Which I think was responding to stuff that had happened previously. I mean, Jacob will know this better than me, but it seems to me that Fofana is absolutely huge. That his injury has really sort of hurt Chelsea this season, with Colville being out as well. And he obviously can't play or struggles to play more than one game a week. And I think if you look at games when Fofana's played this season, I don't think they've let in more than one in a game when he's started, apart from the Brentford game where he went off at half-time. And obviously the second half of that game where things went wrong. So I think they really need Fofana's presence there to give them that solidity at the back. But yeah, that is a problem they've got, that they are lacking experience and they are lacking calm heads. And so if a couple of them are out, they do struggle a bit. The fact that Farke went for the two up front, the 5-3-2 he finished with against City, or that he changed to at half-time against City, I think playing against a strike pairing is difficult for defenders now. They're not familiar with it. So if you've got two fairly inexperienced defenders and most of their football has been one picks up the lone centre forward, the other covers behind, and suddenly you've got two players to deal with, that's a challenge that even experienced players have sort of forgotten how to deal with. Never mind the inexperienced players Chelsea had last night.
And big man was quite fun, Barry, wasn't it? Metcher and Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, they really bullied the Chelsea centre halves. Both of them played really well. I thought with Moise Caicedo out through suspension, maybe resting Reece James was a mistake, but apparently his minutes have to be managed carefully, so that it may have been the sensible decision to leave him out, even though Chelsea clearly missed him. Badiashile and Tosin Adarbayo did not play well at all. Tosin Adarbayo gave away 2 goals, but that was because Leeds bullied them. They're a very aggressive side. The Elland Road crowd really got behind them, and I think Chelsea were intimidated by the atmosphere there last night. They're a very young team, and that's quite the cauldron to go into. And Leeds were just more aggressive, more determined, and thoroughly deserved their win.
You often hear commentators say, X won't score an easier goal in his career. And the Match Today commentator did say Dominic Calvert-Lewin won't score an easier goal in his career. But has anybody scored an easier goal in their career? I'm trying now. Obviously, all memory goes to David Nugent. But does anyone have an easier goal than that for Calvert-Lewin?
If a chance is too easy, does that then bring it back round a little bit to the other side, that there's a bit of you going, oh God, if I miss this will be the worst miss in the entire history of this sport that's been going on for 150 odd years, 160 odd years. Does that then put pressure on because it's too easy? I mean, I'm not sure how he could have missed that chance.
And I think the fact that it is Dominic Calvert-Lewin has to be factored in as well, because
does that affect the
if you were going to put your house on anyone to miss that chance, he would definitely be on the short list.
But I don't think it's possible to miss it. That's the point. I see what you mean about the pressure, Wilson, because the ball is stopped and it's basically in the goal. He's in the goal. I mean, I suppose, Jacob, it's really good for him that he's got 2 in 2, because he has now got this kind of reputation of being a striker that doesn't score goals. And there was a time when he was kind of the next off the rank if Harry Kane got injured for England.
Yeah, he had that little period in the 2021 season, I think, and under Ancelotti, where he looked like he was potentially some kind of challenger to Harry Kane, and he was starting for England in a couple of friendlies. I think he scored at least one around that period. It's kind of that blurry COVID period with empty grounds, so I can't quite remember the games. But he even went to the Euros, the Euro 2020, where they got to the final. Don't think he actually played for England in that, and just think there was points at which he wasn't even in the match day squad. But he at that point he did look like a really top striker, and there were bigger teams looking at him. But I think it's just after that, partly I guess what happened at Everton, the funk that they got into, and also just the injuries with Calvert-Lewin. I think it's really held him back. But I actually do think he's a pretty good player. Just it's been the fitness with him, and that's ultimately why he's at Leeds and not ended up with a bigger move. There have been clubs higher up the table who have looked at him, and points last season where I think it was the summer of 2024, where there were some bigger teams wondering if he might make a good backup for certain situations. Just didn't go with it, and he's ended up in this situation instead. But if he's on form and if he's fit, then I think they've got a pretty good, experienced Premier League striker.
Broja has very much cornered the Premier League market for big strikers who don't score goals.
Right. Who also part of the Everton funk. I mean, the Everton funk is a real thing, isn't it? If you want to become Neil Maupay, see also if you want to be a striker that scores no goals, get into the Everton
and
funk.
And the two they have at the moment, I mean.
Poor old Barry and Beto, the lead singers of Everton funk right now, aren't they? Tanaka's goal was a brilliant strike, and look, good to see Cole Palmer back on the pitch. Let's go to Anfield. Oh, Wilson Isidor. It's Wilson, Isidor in injury time. What a ball from Roofs. And how he's sort of one-on-one, it's just an extraordinary moment in a football match, that, isn't it?
Yeah, he was too straight, I think, is the problem. That ideally in that circumstance as a forward you want a slight angle. So unless Alisson left a space, and Alisson is very good in one-on-ones, he pretty much had to go around him, and by doing that, he made the angle a bit tighter so the shot didn't have the power and Kears was able to get back. But yeah, it just shows, I think, the sort of the intelligence of both Isidore and Roofs, that Sunderland have been under real pressure for 10 minutes, like barely able to get out of their box. And Isidore's smart enough to think, well, if I just hang around 10 yards inside my own half, I can make my run so that I'm hitting speed before I can be offside. Roofs has clearly been aware of that. I don't know if that's something they've talked about, that maybe that is something they can do. But yeah, I guess the pass is easier out your hands, but still, it's a great pass. And
great pass.
Yeah, I don't think Sunderland will live to regret it, but it does feel like 2 points that they could, 2 more points they could have snapped up. And they did hit I know Liverpool hit the woodwork as well, but Sunderland did hit the woodwork twice in that game as well.
Yeah, I thought they were really impressive again, Barry. I mean, we've talked about the impressive parts of Sunderland, but, Brobby held it up. It was a really good focal point. Xhaka again. And they've got this really good mix of, your tough guys like Ballard, and then your Lefays and your Talbys who've got real quality.
Yeah, they were fearless, pretty confident in what they were doing. I think they were somewhat helped by the fact that Liverpool did not play well at all. They were very slow and ponderous. But I'm perfectly happy with that point. It would have been nice if they had nicked it at the end, but they've been massively impressive. I do worry about the festive period. It's Manchester City next, then Newcastle at home, then they've loads of players going to AFCON, but that will give quite a few of the players who helped them win promotion, who haven't really got much of a look in this season, it'll be time for them to step up, and they'll be eager to prove themselves. So I think it speaks volumes that the fact Sunderland went to Anfield, got a draw and could have won, and nobody's massively surprised. I think that speaks volumes of what they've brought to the Premier League. A lot of neutrals seem to really like watching Sunderland and like what they're doing, and that's nice.
2 wins in 7 at Anfield, for Liverpool. Salah came on, Jacob, didn't really do a lot. I only watched the second half live, but when Isak came off, I didn't actually know he was playing, like genuinely. Like I was like, he is there. Like it is quite extraordinary how little fluidity this side have.
Yeah, there's a tweet doing the rounds at the moment among West Ham circles, which is every team thinks their system's clicked when it just turns out they were playing West Ham. That's all it was.
Yeah, of course.
So he went with the same setup as he did on Sunday. Perhaps that was just a one-off, and it's not going to be a long-term solution for them. Yeah, it just looks like they're so low on confidence, and when the away form is seeping into the home form, then that's a huge worry for Liverpool, because you would just expect them to get through this kind of game, even when it's been a struggle away from home. But instead, it's now the Forest game, the PSV game, and okay, they got away with this one, but they were really lucky. I mean, I suppose they take the one positive is the speed that Chiesa showed to get back to clear that off the line. If anybody he wouldn't have been the player you would have expected to get back to stop Isidor scoring there. So Slot took that positive, and because he was saying Chiesa could have just decided that's not up to me, it's up to someone else to get back. But he at least showed the desire to get back there. But otherwise, it just feels like it's a slump that they can't get out of, and it's another hard game on Saturday, because they've got to go to Leeds, who are probably going to be really, really up for it after what they've done last night, and just when they look at Liverpool and think that this is just such a vulnerable team. I think that probably the win at West Ham, who was so poor, and obviously the thing that happened with Paqueta at the end skewed it as well, may just be a one-off, and this is where they are at the moment.
How would you fix, if you were Arne Slot, Wilson, what would you do?
I mean, I think not picking Salah makes sense, and it's going to be forced on them anyway by the Cup of Nations. I think it's now the 15th that they have to release players. Although FIFA does seem to have said that clubs can come up to individual arrangements, which, yeah, I mean, that's a whole other issue, but it is sort of disgraceful how the Cup of Nations has been treated, given that any other tournament's a 14-day window. This is 6 days, and clubs have been told, actually, you can come to your own arrangement. So that's kind of scandalous. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's so many players are out of form, confidence is low. Yeah, they're clearly short of defenders. I mean, I'm sure they'd love to give Konate a break from the team, but they can't. They could have brought in Joe Gomez earlier, I guess, but now they don't have any fit right back, so Gomez has to play at right back. I mean, it's not a case of writing this season off, but I think it's pretty obvious now that the future does not include Salah. The future beyond the end of this season, maybe beyond January. And so I guess building towards that future is all they can do, while hopefully, from their point of view, getting in the top 5 and getting in the Champions League. Yeah, the league's gone.
Do you think so? I mean, do you think Salah, that's, because he was so brilliant last season. So, and look, we've talked about the impact of Jota on all the squad and the players, and maybe it's affected Salah more, but is it physically, you think, that they need to plan without Salah?
I think if you look at the players they signed in the summer, and clearly that as well was slightly influenced by Jota, that they had to buy an extra centre forward that maybe they wouldn't have bought at this stage. And yeah, every time I say that, I'm conscious that it feels slightly jarring in the context of a tragedy, but it did clearly mean they had to slightly change their transfer plans. I don't see how the players they brought in, given that Wirtz was signed apparently with a promise he could play centrally, I don't see how you do that with a right-sided forward who doesn't really track back. So I think if the future is that 4-2-3-1, which Slot used at Feyenoord, he seems to be trying to transition Liverpool towards, I don't really see the Salah fits in that other than as a sub. So, given that he's not scoring goals, he's got 4 goals this season, which is not terrible, but it's not up to his standards. It doesn't justify the lack of defensive work he does, the lack of cover he gives to his right back, which is part of the problem. I think they do have to look to the future and look at how this is going to work, and even if they're almost using the second half of the season to hone what their transfer plans are next summer. So if there is still significant money on the table from Saudi Arabia for Salah, I think the right thing to do would be to look to take it.
It depends if Salah can adapt as well. I mean, is he willing to adapt to being a a squad player for them? I mean, it doesn't necessarily seem like the character who would happily take to that. I mean, I remember being at the West Ham Liverpool game towards the end with Klopp, which was one of the very few games under Klopp where Salah was dropped, and there was the whole thing where he the row over when he was coming on, and he walked through the mix zone afterwards, and I think he said, if I talk now, there'll be fire. So not sure if he's the kind of player who would think that I need to adjust in this way. I'm in my 30s, maybe my minutes get managed, but it's not actually wouldn't be out of this world for that to happen. I mean, you look back at how Ferguson used to deal with Giggs and Scholes, for example. When they got into their 30s, the minutes would be managed, they'd be targeted for certain games, and they accepted it, and their careers were prolonged. And I mean, Salah, it's not like it's just this season. If you look back to last season, the goals kind of dried up after the City away win in February. So this is actually quite a long dip in form by his standards that he's having. At the same time, he's still capable of coming up with some amazing moments like the goal at Brentford this season. So there's probably still a use to him. It's just whether or not he's willing to, I think, to adapt that use. I personally don't think he is, and I think the more likely scenario is, as Jonathan says, is the money from Saudi on the table. He's not going to go anywhere else on that contract.
Yeah, lovely to see Luke O'Nien make his Premier League debut. People who watched Sunderland Till I Die will remember him as the second nicest person in it after that cabbie, who I think was called Pete. And great to see Super Kevin Phillips in the crowd. Interestingly, while cutting away to famous people really annoys me, cutting to club legends in the cheap seats, I think, is absolutely brilliant. More of it, please. And Jacob mentioning Liverpool's away form seeping into their home form. I'm desperate for Spurs' away form to seep into their home form, but we'll see if that happens at the weekend against Brentford. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Brighton 3, Villa 4. Villa a third, Wilson. 6 straight wins in all competitions, and this was a great comeback from them.
Yeah, I mean, 2-0 down at Brighton. They've got a great home record. You sort of think, I mean, Villa have been on this incredible run. It didn't win any of the first 6 games of the season. And then, was it 12 out of 14 since they've won? Or was it 13 out of 15 now? But yeah, on an extraordinary run, they come back, and Isidor coming in for Martinez at fault for the first goal, but then makes that astonishing save from Welbeck late on. One of those saves that actually, when you see the replay, doesn't look as good as it felt in real life, but not in real life, but in real speed. I think it's great reactions from Welbeck to get his head on it and direct it goalwards, and great reactions from Isidor to save it. So they won the XG quite comfortably, Villa, which I was slightly surprised by. But yeah, if they hadn't had that sort of funk at the start, there was a lot of funk going around today, isn't there? The Villa funk at the start of the season.
It's a funky pod, yeah.
Where they literally just seemed to be, they were sulking because they hadn't got the Champions League last season, and then PSR had stopped them spending £1 billion on players or something. But once they got over that and noticed, actually, we do have a really good squad, then they're really reaping the benefits. And I think Daniel Marlin, I did the game when they won at Leeds, was it 2 weeks ago? He came on at half-time, made a huge difference in that game. I think he's a really gifted player.
Ollie Watkins, Jacob, they'd gone on this great run without Watkins scoring any goals. He scored a couple. His second, or was it his first? The one that put them just before half-time, I think, where Morgan Rogers plays a brilliant pass and he finishes it like a striker in form. Like, if they add his goals, sort of interesting that they are now third and have not been any part of any conversation about the title, I guess because Arsenal are probably better. But, they are putting themselves in the mix.
Yeah, did you see a celebration when he scored as well? That second goal, he sort of ran into the net and sort of shouted at the Brighton fans behind the goal.
Yeah. Did he say? I don't know what. I don't know what was like that. Yeah,
something like that. I don't know what was. I don't. They didn't really. It was hard to tell on the highlights what that was all about, but I quite enjoyed that bit of needle from Ollie Watkins. He's kind of got that a little bit. I think he did it against Brentford a couple of years ago when he went back there, and I think he always feels a little bit that he's a bit underestimated. I know there was sort of a bit of that feeling around England. So for the Euros, he thought people wouldn't have him in their squads and everything. And then I think he uses that as a bit of as motivation at times. And obviously that summer goes and scores the goal against Holland to get them to the final. And I think this season again, he's probably feeling a bit miffed at really being written off quite a lot. And obviously his form hasn't been fantastic. And I think Emery said before the game that they're having to manage him because of this knee pain that he's playing through. Last season they probably would have been able to take him out because they had for the start of the season they had Duran and then Rashford comes in. This season they're having to play through it much more. That's coupled with having to play in the Europa League as well, Thursday, Sunday. So it's been probably physical grind for Ollie Watkins, but we do know that he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League when he's on form, and it's good to see him get back amongst the goals. Another tough one on Saturday to come because they've got that a bitterly weakened Arsenal defence to come, but still probably the best defence in the league even with that. But he'll be feeling so much more confident from those two. The first one's just a poacher's goal, but the second one is such a good finish. Just as you say, looked like it hadn't been 10, 15 games since he scored. I think he'd only scored one all season. That was against Fulham. So for them, as you say, for them to do that without him scoring, it's a bit like Chelsea going on that massive unbeaten run without Cole Palmer. He is so important to them. So if they can get him going again, then I don't think the title, but I think they'll be up there for the top 4 or top 5.
Serious end-to-end stuff, because Villa thought they'd scored from a corner. Cash sent the ball in. Konsa headed the ball against the post, but as the ball hit the post, Bart Verbruggen fell into the net, so the net rippled, and I think Villa's players thought they'd scored. Certainly the fans did. And then Brighton broke up field. I think it was Brian Gruder shot straight at Bezo. He gave the ball to Torres, who sent Watkins away on his bike. It was quite fun because Watkins had 3 defenders breathing down his neck as he went through on goal. So it was a very well taken finish under quite a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think it was Rodgers that put him through. But you're right. I really thought I was waiting for goal line technology. I was waiting for them to say that. For me, it's like the ball had crossed the line completely, and it was a sort of not quite a Wilson scenario, possible Wilson, a Wilson scenario variant without a handball in it or whatever your scenario was. But I guess, Barry, that win for Villa really sets up the Arsenal game at the weekend. Or should we not go on whether wins set up games after what we did to the Chelsea Arsenal game? Lewis Dunk made his 500th appearance for Brighton, so well done to him. This club is my whole life. I've been here since I was 10 or 11, so it means everything to me. The pride and the honour to put on the shirt and the captain's armband every game, to play every day in training, is still there, and it always will be. That's some feat, isn't it? Should we go to the Emirates? Arsenal 2, Brentford 0. You were there, Jacob. Did you have a nice time?
Yeah, I had a nice time, but it wasn't a particularly memorable game. I mean, luckily I do remember what happened less than 24 hours on, so that's okay. But by tomorrow, I think I might have forgotten a lot of this game because
it was very much one of those if they win the title, no one will go back to this game. I think whoever was on CoCom said that, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly the right thing to say about this game.
Yeah, I suppose the two little bits away from it are that it's the night after Manchester City concede 4 at Fulham, brings the whole Mourinho back in 2004 5-4 as a hockey score, and then the night after, Arsenal just run through a very efficient 2-0 win in a home game against mid-table side, and I suppose that brings up the contrast. And do you look at all their rivals or closest challengers at teams around them at the moment? Villa concede 3, Chelsea concede 3, City concede 4, Arsenal without Mosquera, who went off in the first half after a bad fall. I think he hurt his knee, and Saliba and Gabriel already out. They very easily get the clean sheet. There was one Brentford chance through Kevin Schade hit the bar. They had quite a lot of pressure at certain points in the second half, quite a lot of set pieces, a lot of long throws. So the crowd gets a bit nervous. Arsenal weren't really playing that well after good start in which Mourinho scored. But they were never really allowed to test right. They never really looked like Brentford never really looked like scoring, and that's probably what's going to set Arsenal apart this season is just that solidity. The other element is Mourinho scoring again, gets the assist against Tottenham to open that game up, the equaliser against Chelsea, and then 11 minutes into this one, he's there for on the end of a Ben White cross. Ben White looking very good on his second league start of the season. And it's now a little, I don't know if it's a dilemma for Arteta, but it's an interesting situation up front because they've been calling for a striker for 2 or 3 years for him to spend big on a striker. They get one in Gyökeres, he's injured, in comes the false 9 in Mourinho, and suddenly they're going, well, they've got to play with a false 9 because he's got 3 assists, 3 goals and 4 assists in the last month. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays that, whether Gyökeres is able to actually get ahead of this guy who I think a lot of people, there's nothing particularly interesting about Mikel Merino, but he's so efficient and he keeps coming up with big moments for them. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one for him to go with, but I don't think it's a dilemma because it's just he's got so many options now. He can probably use Gyökeres in certain points to get them through probably a game like last night if he'd been fit, and then Marino or a player like Havertz in the difficult away games. But he's not a striker. He is. They signed him as a midfielder, and he's been pushed up there. And he's not running in behind at any point. He's not stretching defenses, but he is really good in the air, and he's got the knack for goals as well. He's very good when the ball comes into the box, and he's clever. He is clever. It wasn't just the goal last night. I should say that obviously he got the assist for Saka for the second goal as well. The through ball for Saka. Again, this is one of the things for Arsenal. Last season that he wouldn't have been able to. Last season they probably would have dropped points in this game because they wouldn't have had the options to withstand some of the injuries that they've got this season. That they're able to get through that much easier than in the past. Madueke started on the right for Saka, so is able to manage those minutes before the Villa game. Ben White came in for Timber, who had to come on because of Mascara going off, but the squad is just so deep, and it's pretty nice when you're able to just leave Eze on the bench for an hour because you've brought in Odegaard. This is probably again one of the things that's going to set them apart from the others.
I guess the only thing, Wilson, is there was a possible injury to Declan Rice. And okay, look, Marino dropped into midfield, Gyökeres went up front, and they were fine in this game. But if there is one player that you sort of think they can't do without, it maybe is Declan Rice, if that is a longer-term injury.
Yeah, I mean, I think he and Gabriel probably are the two you'd say are very hard to replace. As it turns out, they played perfectly well without Gabriel, and the squad has been deep enough to cover for that. Rice, I think, does give them something different. I mean, in terms of his energy and his engine, as much as anything, Marino can do a lot of the technical things Rice can, but is he going to have that stamina to keep going? Covering in front of the back four, also occasionally breaking into the box, creating a threat. His dead ball delivery is a huge thing as well. That they will miss that because I think he probably is the best deliverer of a dead ball in the Premier League at the moment. So, yeah, I think Arsenal have significantly the deepest and most coherent squad in the Premier League. But Rice is probably the one where that could hurt them if it is a longer term injury.
I think David Raya, to give him credit, or to give him some flowers, or whatever the kids say, I think he got a fingertip to that Sharda header. And it was an absolutely brilliant save. But apart from that, you're right, Brentford didn't create a whole lot. Ted says, when do we start having the conversations about Wolves and 07-08 Derby County? I can't remember who we were doing about Southampton last year, Barry. Did they celebrate when they got over 11 points? 2 points after 14 games. And that isn't enough points, Barry.
No, I think there is precedent of a team staying up with 6 points on Boxing Day. Sheffield United, that might have been when there was 22 teams in the Premier League. So I can't see this Wolves side doing that, but you never know. I thought Wolves played well against Villa on Sunday, even though they lost. But they were dismal in this game against Forest. First half performance was just hopeless. Forest had a goal ruled out. Igor Jesus, completely unmarked, headed home at a corner, but Dan Ndoye was apparently impeding Sam Johnson's view. So the goal was ruled out, but Igor Jesus went on to score the winner with a header. Omari Hutchinson cross, he's playing well for Forest at the moment. Now he's getting more time on the pitch. But was Jean Arias, who I think has been a very disappointing signing for them. He looked really good during the Club World Cup, even though I can't remember who he was playing for, but he was one of the standout players. He's been a massive disappointment for Wolves, but this was, after a very promising performance at the weekend, albeit in defeat, this was back to square one, I think.
Wilson, I mean, should they be planning for the Championship already? And how different is planning for the Championship to carrying on playing the Premier League games as if you're trying to stay in the Premier League?
I don't know. What would planning for the Championship look like? To play more front foot football, because they're probably going to have to try and win more games next season. I think they just got to. I mean, it's short-term targets, isn't it? So the first target is, can we win a game? The second thing is, can we win either an away or a home game, depending where the first one is? Then can we get more than 11 points?
Cool, this is quite nice. This is quite nice sort of bite-size approach to football. I think it's quite a nice way to do it, very simplified football.
But I think the honest truth is this season, I think maybe Burnley don't quite fit into this, but 17 or 18 teams are much of a muchness. Arsenal are much better than everybody else, and Wolves are much worse than everything else. And if you're Wolves, that's quite a bad place to be. So, I mean, the problem with bringing Rob Edwards now, if you think back to, I'm sure there's better examples of this, but Jan Sievert at Huddersfield, I admit this is not the most high-profile example. They bring him in, I think it was 10 games to the end of that season. Give all the listeners just a moment to remember Jan Sievert and Huddersfield being in the Premier League, just to get on board with it. Go, okay, right, here we are. Did he come in for David Wagner, or who did he come in for? I think that's right, yeah.
Wagner.
Right, yeah. And
the idea was, he'll have 10 games before the end of the season, and then he'll know the squad ready for the start of next season. And all that happened was, they lost the vast majority of those 10 games. Everybody thought, who is this idiot? He can't coach us. Confidence is low, belief in him's disappeared, and he ends up being sacked pretty quickly the following season. So that's the danger for Rob Edwards, that even if there has been, in his talk to Wolves, even if there has been some talk of, look, we're not really expecting miracles here, just get your feet under the table, work out what you need in the summer, and then you can lead our promotion charge. It often doesn't really work like that. I mean, actually, it did used to work like that this cropped up at the weekend that Billy Bonds was manager of West Ham when they were relegated, stayed, took them to promotion the following season. So it can work, but early 90s maybe it's a different world to now. So if Rob Edwards' reason was, as he said, for going to Wolves, that he supports them and he couldn't not try and save them in their hour of need, then maybe he's taken them over at exactly the wrong time for him to actually have a positive experience there.
Wolves tend to start planning for the Championship every summer by selling their best players to other teams.
But I was sort of thinking, would you go, okay, these guys are going to leave next season, so do we need to keep playing X, I don't know, somebody who's good for Wolves?
But the problem if you do that is
Gomez, maybe.
The problem then is it makes them much harder to sell. If it's like, well, this guy couldn't even get in this team and finish the season with 3 points, then that makes you got to keep playing them, unless they've got some clause where it suddenly triggers some big bonus payment if they play 30 games or something. But I think try and get some points. I don't think it's more complicated than that at the moment. Well, that seems pretty complicated.
You're probably right. Yeah. Maybe one of their players has a huge bonus if they get one win. And this is what they've been trying to avoid all season. But maybe there is no difference to trying to stay in the Premier League to planning for the Championship. I don't know. Crystal Palace won 1-0 at Burnley. What did you make of this, Baz?
Not much, really. I think it's second last on Match of the Day. Um, Palace, their goal came from Daniel Munoz, header across the face, a goal into the bottom corner from a very good Mark Gay cross. Not a huge amount else to talk about. Jaden Anthony had a couple of chances. Jakob Brynn-Larsen smashed a shot off the bar for Burnley. After the game, Scott Parker sort of said, "Yeah, we're doing okay. I'm happy enough with the performance, but we really need to start turning these performances into points." And he's right. But Burnley are quite bad. They need to start getting some points on the board.
Yeah, should give Dean Henderson some credit. I think he made a bit like Reyes pushing Sharda's head onto the bar. I think he pushed that Bryn Larsen shot onto the bar as well. That was a very good save.
Burnley slung a ball into the box quite late in the game, and Henderson came for it, missed it. It hit Armando Broja's back and looked like it was going to go in, but Chris Williams was able to hack it off the line.
He just needs one to go in off his back, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he can't even get one to go in off his back.
Man United, West Ham.
Isn't it? So
it is, yes, but it's close enough.
If it comes off your back, maybe it's not going to go in.
Right, if it comes off your back or your side, it's not good enough. West Ham are in the bottom three now, Jacob. Go to Old Trafford tonight. How are you feeling about all things London Stadium?
That just feels like goading, like that intro there.
There was quite an open question. It was quite an open question, I think. It was all facts, I wasn't going like, no. I was like, I'm not surprised that's where you are, but how are you feeling?
I'm not surprised either. I think they're surprised that Leeds... Probably it's a surprise that Leeds won and put them there, because people were expecting Chelsea to do West Ham a favour, but that did not happen. They were really poor and disappointing against Liverpool on Sunday. Didn't do any of the things that you need to do to beat or trouble this Liverpool team. And obviously tonight they're without Paqueta after that red card against Liverpool, so the attacking options are even more diminished. Somerville's out and has been out for a lot of his time since joining West Ham, so once again, not for the first time, most of the onus is on Jarrod Bowen to do something for them. It's been okay under Nuno at certain points. The Newcastle game was a very good performance, but they beat Burnley without actually really playing that well, and the attacking options are so limited that they're kind of having to just steal goals from any means, really. And if that doesn't happen, then it's putting a lot of pressure on a really poor defence. He brought in Mavropanos for Kilman against Liverpool. Kilman has really not been playing well. 40 million very badly spent, but Mavropanos is 20 million very badly spent, was at fault for that goal the other day. Maybe they can bring in Igor Julio, who's okay. They've got some real problems, and they need to try and fix it somehow in January. Otherwise, they're in real danger. But they'll probably be Man United now that you've. They'll probably be Man United now that you've goaded me.
Yeah. Apologies for the goading, but it's nice to see so many Igors. Is that 3 Igors in the Premier League? There was a time when I was a child where Igor was just a monster in a Scooby-Doo, cartoon. And now they are representing the Premier League. Barry, which of the Premier League fixtures takes your eye?
Yes, several of them catch my eye, Max.
Do you want to give me any more info?
All 10 of them. I've seen them. They caught my eye. I'm personally looking forward to Manchester City's game against Sunderland. I guess Arsenal Villa at Villa Park is a big one. Can Arsenal halt the juggernaut that is Aston Villa? And they're probably the two most interesting for me, anyway.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Keith Andrews does one over Thomas Frank as Brentford go to Spurs as well. I think, and Liverpool strip to Leeds as well. Anything?
Well, the Brentford Spurs one is actually interesting because Brentford are terrible away from home and Spurs are terrible at home. So something has to give.
Yes, although Fulham were terrible away from home until last Saturday. So we can all see the direction that is travelling in. Anything you pointed out to you, Wilson? Are you off anywhere?
I'm up to Leeds for Liverpool for the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday, which I think is interesting for a number of reasons. I mean, Liverpool's ongoing struggles, Leeds suddenly playing two up front, which I think in this sort of retro 80s season that we're having, teams going two up front seems logical. So quite keen to see how that works. And I haven't been to Elland Road for years. I can't even remember last time I was there. So very much looking forward to that.
I mean, given how shaky Virgil and Ibrahima Konate are, and the number that the two Leeds strikers did on their Chelsea defence,
yeah, that's a good point.
I think they could pose Liverpool some serious problems.
Finally, Dominic says, I think Barney was confused about the location of Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace Station is about 45 minutes walk. Selhurst, Thornton Heath and Norwood Junction all within about 10 minutes. Jacob, you're nodding.
Yeah. Did Barney go to Crystal Palace Station?
Well, not only did he go there, but he was recommending everybody go there as the way to get to Selhurst Park. And, we just listened because, Barney sounds so clever. You just have to agree with what he was telling you. So he's changed the commuting habits of all of South London.
When I go there, I go to East Croydon and just walk from East Croydon, which is probably about a 40-minute walk. But it's actually quite a pleasant walk. And it means the train's not as busy. Okay. And you get your steps in and you can listen to a podcast if you want.
Do you listen to football podcasts, Wilson?
Yeah, because I want to. I mean, sometimes I listen to myself because I regard myself as being the most sensible voice on the game. But it's also useful to learn from your others, see how you can improve. But no, of course, I listen to other people. I want people to tell me what to think. I don't have ideas myself anymore. I'm 49.
So I got the impression that you were listening to sort of slightly sordid, saucy podcasts, Wilson, and I didn't have it. I didn't have you down for that. Anyway, thanks to everyone that listens to this one. We've been sent lots of Spotify Wrapped roundups. Current high scorer Jamie Darcy, who's listened to us for 10,500 minutes this year, which seems a lot, but if you can beat it, do let us know.
I'd never done one of these. I never had a Spotify Plus membership till this year, and it tells you your music age. Do you want to have a guess what my music age is? And Barry can have a clue. Is that the only thing I've listened to is the playlist that was at my wedding. So if you can remember that, Barry, you've got a chance of guessing this.
I can't remember the playlist at your wedding. I can't remember who was DJing, but I know it was a friend of yours.
Yeah, the Peter Frankopan, the historian.
Why wouldn't you get Simon Sharma? Who's your favourite historian DJ? Anyway, what is your musical age according to Spotify, Wilson? 57.
76.
Just listen to Vera Lynn on loop. Play it again, Vera. Anyway, that'll do for today. We'll be back on Monday.
Sorry, just one more quick thing, Max.
Yes.
I forgot to mention yesterday when I was talking about the Football Supporters Association Awards that Guardian Women's Football Weekly also won in the Best Women's Football Podcast. And I got to meet Lucy Ward in real life.
Have you never met before?
I've never met Lucy Ward in real life before. Please. And that led to a personal life highlight, which was I got to meet Neil Redfern in real life.
Huge. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a lovely
man.
Never meet your heroes, but good for you on meeting Neil.
Lovely man, very strong handshake, as you would expect.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a good Barnsley handshake. Anyway, that will do. Thanks everyone. If you're still, no one is still listening by now, but if you've ever met Neil Redfern and shaken his hand, let us know.